Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, and we battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time, according to two film geeks from Wiltshire, England. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a review and subscribe. Hello, podsters. Welcome back to the Film vs. Film podcast. This week, as The Woman in the Window hits Netflix on our small screens, cinemas are coming back very soon. I'm very excited, but still just looking at films on the small
Any
screens.
day now.
So Amy Adams stars in The Woman in the Window, so we'll be picking our favourite films from her work. So my pick this week for Amy Adams films is American Hustle. I've already... Oh, yeah.
Or did you?
I did see it.
Are you sure it wasn't a premonition?
I wanted to pick something else because I have thoughts. There wasn't a lot of Amy Adams films I have seen, to be honest, that she's in a leading role in. So yeah, I like the look of American Hustle. Really great cast. You got Christian Bale, Jennifer Lawrence, Bradley Cooper, Jeremy Renner.
Yeah, Robert De Niro.
Yeah, Robert De Niro.
Luis from Ant-Man.
Oh yeah. Michael Pena. No names, Boaz.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Boaz is with us, by the way. Just saying. So what happens in American Hustle? So it's kind of like this Scorsese-esque film where a couple of con men called Irving Rosenfeld,
Con man and con woman. Yeah.
called Sidney Prosser, and they're kind of like partners in crime, and they're forced to work with this crazy FBI agent Richie Damasco, who pushes them into a world of politicians and the mob, and it gets all a bit out of hand. So
Yeah.
So what did you think of this film, Boaz? I quite enjoyed it, to be fair.
Yeah, so did I. I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, it's a really kind of difficult situation they're in. Like Bradley Cooper, there's quite a lot of complexities in it.
Yeah.
You know? There's like a kind of love triangle going on there, or a love dodecahedron. It's like it's all over the bizzle. They're being forced by Bradley Cooper to do this con, otherwise they'll go to jail. And even the guys they're conning, like Jeremy Renner, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
It's all very, very messy, and it's quite interesting. And all the characters are I think the great thing is nobody has their shit together, and nobody is one of these I'm in control sort of guy. They're all just all over the place emotionally and stuff.
So directing then, David O. Russell certainly tries to convey this very Martin Scorsese-esque style to the film, brings a kind of a gangster quality to his films. You've got long flashback sequences with Christian Bale's character Irving Rosenfeld as a kid, and with Bale's voiceover on it, and you get the same thing with Amy Adams' character Sidney Prosser, and how they meet, all in flashback and voiceover for both those characters and how they meet. And you've got a lot of tracking shots through it, freeze frames on particular characters to explain what they're all about. It just feels very Scorsese but I think the thing that separates it from Scorsese and more of a David O. Russell film is it's generally quite funny at times, and just really absurd as well,
Yeah. And also you were saying use of flashbacks, it does this a lot, but basically a framing technique of instead of showing the action and then him saying it or showing it, then he explains it and then it has a flashback, or just doing a flashback. It intercuts it. So one character, this happened several times, a specific instance I remember with clarity is in the car, where he goes in the car and basically his wife is, blabbed stuff. She doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. Yeah, to the gangsters and stuff.
I think Jennifer Lawrence is just in this film to just be crazy and burn stuff.
She is mad. She's absolutely mad. It was strange. When I first seen her, she genuinely quite irritated me. And then it's like, and then she's quite funny and quirky and all over the place. You're like, what the hell is? And all the other characters are like, they don't know what she's going to do next. She's so. I found her quite funny, but also really frustrating.
Yeah.
Of just like, God damn it, woman, shut your mouth.
What was the book
I've got
she
no
was
idea
reading?
what you're talking about.
A book on suggestions.
Oh, it was
No.
like. Yeah,
Intention.
It was like
the power of
the
intention, Irving. The power of intention.
Yeah.
I have made you do this thing because I've read this book.
That was funny. That was funny how she basically nearly got him killed, and then he's trying to like spin it. Oh no, it's the power of intention. You should be thanking me. You should be thanking. You freaking psychopath.
Yeah, and Irving inside
But,
just like, seriously, just look after the kid and be quiet.
I love how he just wants her to shut up, so he's like, oh, well done, and he goes to kiss her, and it was funny that she's like, I think we should have a divorce, and you could tell he's pretending to be, oh, okay, if that's what you want, but he was wanting a divorce at the beginning, and she was like, no. So I love that scene. It was like him, kind of getting his way, or just not trying to struggle against this. This crazy woman, but that was funny.
Yeah,
we'll get into the acting, but I thought the acting was pretty stellar, just amusing. But anyway, I was just going to say I liked the flashback between it, where he's like, you nearly got me killed, yeah, and then shows what that was about.
Yeah, we'll be talking a lot of flashbacks in this episode, I think. Both films.
Yeah. Oh yeah, although in the next one it's not so much flashbacks as like flashes all over the fucking place. You think they're flashbacks. Yeah. We'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah, I love the soundtrack in this film. It's just really great, catchy tunes. Like you got Steely Dan, Dirty Work, Duke Ellington's Jeep Blues, Tom Jones, Delilah, ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, Elton John. Yellow Brick Road. Every time that song is on, I have to sing it with the film. Bee Gees, Live and Let Die, David Bowie, and many others. It's just brilliant. There aren't many shots that really stick out with me. Yeah, I mean, David O. Russell certainly sticks with this kind of Scorsese style, but very mildly, I think. There's a few shots here and there. There's one after Irving convinces Jeremy Renner's character, Mayor Carmine Polido, to come back into the hotel and go and stick with the deal. He explains the situation with Edith and Richie, that he's going to take the mayor out to dinner with the wives. And there's this long push-in to close up on Edith, Amy Adams' character, looking absolutely disgusted.
Yeah.
And in that shot, exactly what Edith and Rosalind's relationship is, Irving's wife. They absolutely hate each other. The look they give each other outside the party, it's just like, oh, ouch. Especially like Jennifer Lawrence. It's like they could seriously dig some nails into each other if you let them.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, it's just Jennifer Lawrence's character. I think she's just a blast because she's just like, none of the characters can get a read on her. She's just out of her mind. And neither can you. And I do like that where Amy Adams confronts her. And it's like they have an argument in the bathroom and stuff like that. I just thought it was crazy. So they're having an argument, and it's like, well, Irving loves me and all this, that. And then she randomly, like, kisses her.
Yeah, that was...
I thought, what the hell was that? Yeah, that really... Yeah, I was like, what on earth?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did think that. I was just like, why is the kiss in there?
Yeah.
It's not...
It's just really strange.
It's not like a kiss of death, is it? Like Godfather Part 2 or anything. It's just like...
No, I've got no idea what that was about. Yeah, I don't know. That was just strange. It's really, really weird.
Yeah, that's really just stuck in my head now. I'm like, why the hell did she do that? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just because I'm much better with him or whatever, because I kiss him amazingly or whatever. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe this
is what he loves about me.
Maybe she's really drunk. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It was really...
But it certainly came out of the blue, So have you got a favourite shot then?
I think you're right. Like, shots in particular of like anything sort of tricky done with the camera or just anything that kind of sticks out beyond the norm. There's not that much, really. I like the shot of Robert De Niro. When you see Robert De Niro as like an older sort of gangster, and it's just like, boom, he's in the center, You know, there's no clutter, there's nobody really there. Do you know what I mean? It's a dark room, and it's like, yep, this is Robert De Niro. He's important. The room is mainly empty.
Yeah.
You can tell he's serious. And then I love how it goes from that to Christian Bale explaining how he used to be like just a horrible killer years ago. Like he's one of the most violent mobsters, and it has like a younger De Niro in center. You know, basically, yeah. I just quite like that. I thought that was a really good.
And there's like a little like flashback sequence where he just takes someone out.
He's walking down with someone, laughing and joking, and then just shoots him in the head. And... yeah, that was pretty cool. I like that shot. Another one, I suppose, I like. You know, it made me laugh, and I did like. It's not that stylish, but just where he's on the phone, and his wife is listening in on the extension, and he's like,
"Oh yeah,
get off the extension," and it moves the camera. It does a little pan through the rooms, and she's like, "I'm not," and closes off the extension. I like that.
Yeah, my favorite shot is that long pushing shot on Robert De Niro's character Victor Taleggio when you see him for the first time. You know, the ex-enforcer. He's quite scary, I think, in this. You know, he's like slightly balding. You know, with these very thick black glasses. You know, and Christian Bale's just like shit. Yeah. We can't be dealing with this guy.
Yeah, I would.
Abort! Alarm bells going off.
I would say that's my favorite shot too. Yeah, it's you could just tell. You can tell. Oh man, this is serious shit, and that's good that you can just do that with one shot.
So, what score would you give directing for this film, Boaz?
Give it a 7.6.
7.
That is actually quite low. 8.3.
All right,
that's a bit better. What the fuck's wrong with me?
That's too high.
No, you do your own damn score.
Yeah, I liked it, but I think it's not the strongest point in this film. I don't think
7.8. Final answer.
Fuck's sake! I'm running out of room. Yeah, it's as I said, it's got a very like Scorsese vibe to it, like firmly set in the 70s period. I'll go like a solid 8, I think. All right, screenplay then. I really like the scene where Sydney comes out of jail and she's discussing and at times arguing with Irving about, they do these 4 busts and then they're out and they can get on with their lives. But Sydney thinks they need like a backup plan in case things go wrong, which of course they do. So she decides to get really close to Richie DeMarco's character, who played by Bradley Cooper, the cop that's blackmailing them. So, so she can use him to their advantage if needs be. And by the end of that scene, she says, maybe I do like him. Maybe I like him a lot. Mainly because she's angry at Irving as well. But it's interesting because it sows the seeds of, will Sydney like end up with Richie at the end, and fall in love, etc. So it's kind of just really interesting how, the relationship between the three of them is set up in that scene, and where it might go. Then later in like the bathroom stall, Edith says to Richie, I it's a bit because they do, go dancing, and there's very much a Saturday Night Fever vibe to that, and in the stall, Edith says to Richie, I want to live for real. No more fake shit. We're going to wait and decide to fall in love, Richie, for real. That's when we fuck. Not till then, all right? No more fake shit. And the performance is really quite passionate, especially with the weird scream at the end she gives. Do you remember that? That was kind of weird. And you're like, is she telling the truth or is she just reeling him in still? It's just really interesting. And she obviously still keeps the English accent at that point,
Oh, man, yeah.
So it's just like she's just on the edge of just really desperately wanting to get out of this situation. Yeah, or just reeling this guy in, But what do you think about, Cooper's character in this? It's just fucking nuts.
Yeah, dude, he is crazy. He is crazy. It's quite funny because the film begins with them basically first meeting Carmine, the mayor, and trying to set this up. And I thought Ricky was a criminal, just 100%. I thought he was a con man, and like not a very good one, not as good as not as good as Christian Bale. Yeah. And I just thought he was a con man and probably like, under Christian Bale or whatever. I love that bit where you see him spend all the time to do his hair, his comb over.
Yeah.
And Ricky touches him and he's like, don't you bloody touch, don't you fucking touch me.
But he's like so still, isn't he? Just like, full of rage. Like,
and
what the fuck did you do? Just my
don't
amazing
touch
hair.
me. And then he's like, that irritates me. He's like, if I wanted to irritate you, I'd do this. And he just musses up his hair. I love that. I thought that was fun. But yeah, Ricky comes off as a dick. I just thought he was a criminal. But he's an FBI guy. And throughout the film, he like behaves so erratically and so just off the chain that you think, how the hell?
Yeah.
I love the bit where he beat up his boss and how that was.
Oh yeah.
Because he keeps demanding from his boss to put more and more money into this operation. I want this. I want 2 million. I want this. I want that. I want a helicopter.
Ends up being 10 million. Doesn't it?
I think it was to have. Yeah, and also the suite. That was the thing that he was like, no, absolutely not. He wants him to buy out like one floor of the hotel. It's like absolutely not.
Yeah,
really expensive hotel. And he has an argument on the phone, and he's like, okay, where are you? And he's like, he tells him where he is, and he goes, I'm going to come over there, and I'm going to beat your ass. And then the next scene is them talking to their superior. And he's being very apologetic, and you see like just bruises on,
And then his superior's on his side in the end, on Cooper's side. You're not getting the 10 million. That's ridiculous. But you can have the plaza, and the other guy with with a
bruises all over his face,
ice pack. He's just like, what the hell? What? Are you not disciplining
I
this
just
guy?
love how like Ricky can. Yeah, but Ricky can do such horrible things to the characters, like. He can behave like a complete ass to Christian Bale or to Amy Adams' character or just to anybody. And then and to his superior. And then later, he is so nice. He's like overly nice, like in the interview thing. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to go over that far. And it's really weird. I remember, what was it? When they had that new Sheikh. What was it? He's been having arguments constantly. Yeah.
Oh, the Sheikh. Yeah.
He's been having in the plane that the FBI bought a plane for them to sell the. And how, Christian Bale hates him. They both hate each other. They know this. They've had many arguments. He's like kissing his, his girlfriend and all this stuff. And I love how they get onto the plane and he's being super supportive of him. He's like, yeah, listen to him. He knows what he's doing. He's great. And Christian Bale is like, why the hell are you complimenting me? All of a sudden, he's just like, I just love their dynamic. I thought Ricky was a great character because he's just off the chain 1 minute, and then
I think the scene that actually encapsulates what our perception of him is like is when Richie DeMasso is like, he says to his mum at one point, I'm outside on the field. I've got people working for me, my ideas. I'm running the show. I'm the quarterback. I'm not going to settle for no one, mum. He's ridiculously ambitious, confident in this line. And you think, yeah, he's doing the right thing. But he's saying this to his mother in her flat where he lives. Plus, he's got these ridiculous pink curlers in his head, in his hair. Yeah,
he just
and you just can't take him seriously at all. He's just going to get everyone in serious trouble.
And his fiance's there for the dinner while he's just had a phone call that he really wants to screw Amy Allen. He is a complete contradiction of a man. He is, he's a very strange guy.
And we talked a little bit about this scene, but Robert De Niro, when he starts speaking Arabic, is just like,
that was really tense. I loved that scene. Yeah, that freaked me out. It was just like, because Robert De Niro is he's a hardcore gangster. He's gonna, get into business with this sheikh and everything. And he's just like, where's he from? Abu Dhabi. And then he just starts speaking Arabic. It's like,
and everyone just starts looking really anxious. You're like, and when he stops, no one says anything. Bradley Cooper especially is just like, please, someone say something.
Yeah, Bradley is like, I think, and he's like, let him speak for himself. It's like, oh crap. That was really tense.
And then the drunk guy comes in to break all the tension.
That was a brilliant scene. I really like that.
I kind of like how the film like all ties up, you know, where Irving basically grows a conscience that they're conning like a really good guy in Renner's character. They end up tricking Richie into doing the 2 million wire transfer, you know, with their fake attorney, Victor Taleggio. And then like an anonymous deal comes into play for their immunity and a reduced sentence for Carmine Polito, Renner's character, you know, if they give the 2 million back. You know, and then obviously Richie tries to like turn it back onto them, but Irving's just, you know, and explains the story of it. And then Irving's like, this just sounds ridiculous.
He's like, you've got no proof it's us, but even if we go through that, if it is us, how embarrassing is that for you? You know, you got these con artists that you were going to give immunity to do this big con, and then they conned you during the con. Dude, you're never going to live that down, you know, just...
Basically ruins his career. But yeah, you know, it does all wrap up in quite a satisfying way for the characters that you're rooting for, really.
Everybody gets what they deserve. You know, everybody just makes it through. All the good guys. Yeah, even Rosalind.
Yeah.
You know, she has that gangster boyfriend now.
Yeah, she has some great lines. She says, when she's talking to Irving near the beginning, she says, "We fight and we fuck, and that's what we do. That's our thing." Have you got a favourite line in this film?
Man,
then?
quite a few. What was it? I was going to say another line of her. You know, I just love how she tries to put a spin that nothing's her fault when it always is. But you know, she blows up the microwave by like putting metal in the microwave, and then she was like, "It takes the nutrition out of food." Yeah, I've just read it in this article, so you know, like I did the right things.
It's called a science oven. Come on,
science oven. Yeah.
My favourite is arguably, possibly my favourite one of the podcast so far. When Christian Bale was talking about Rosalind in voiceover, and he says she was the Picasso of passive-aggressive karate.
I think that was my favourite line. I just couldn't bloody remember what it was. I knew it had something to do with karate.
It's just amazing.
That was it. That was my favourite line. Yeah.
Yeah. She was the Picasso of passive-aggressive karate. I mean, whoever wrote that, my God, that was amazing. Yeah, David O. Russell did help write the script with Eric Warren Singer. Great work there, guys, with that zinger.
Yeah. Or maybe my favourite line is that unearthly scream from Bradley Cooper. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Where she's like, she's not going to have sex with him. She doesn't like him that way. And he goes, he like, I can't even do it. You've got to see a clip of it. It's just like, what the fuck?
Like,
he has this unholy yell, like this guttural, you know, spiritual, you know, like from the pit yell. And then she hits him with a pitcher and he's like, ow, oh. It's like, what the? Yeah, that was crazy. I like that.
So, have you got a score for screenplay?
Yeah, the screenplay was fun. The screenplay was really fun. Like 8.7.
I think it was good. I guess it certainly wraps up in quite a satisfying way. You know, some really great lines in this film. But again, I would say possibly the screenplay is still not the strongest element of this film. I think the strongest element by far is the acting. The acting is pretty extraordinary. You know, it's more of a heist film than a gangster film, I would say, definitely. Certainly based on true events, as they say at the start.
Let's just say some of this is true. I like the very New York, you know, way that some of this is true.
You know, it is very realistic and it's got a great style to it. So I'll go 8.4, I think. Right, acting then. Let's go straight into that scene, because I think we're both desperate to really get into the nitty-gritty of the scene that you've certainly talked about. I'll try and go through it. I tried to get like from top to bottom, then we can just pick some other parts out that we like. So after the party scene, where Richie comes over to Edith's apartment, Bradley Cooper is insane and incredible. Yeah, he's really excited that he's going to get everything worked out. He's going to book the whole floor of the plaza. So he phones the FBI to get approved. The FBI says no. Cooper gets angrier and angrier, and there's this incredible like wide shot with Sydney in the middle, sat on the bed, and Richie is just pacing up and down, getting angrier and angrier. The FBI say no. he's literally shouting down the phone, and at one point he literally sounds like Jigsaw from Saw down the phone, if you notice. And then Cooper is literally like growling like a dog at times at Amy Adams, saying, "You gotta calm me down, you gotta calm me down," and then kissing her all over, pretty much. And then Cooper basically becomes really horny and really wants her, acting real crazy.
Yeah, it's probably the horniest I've ever seen a man.
Yeah, and he's speaking in this really soft voice, and then Adams tells him the truth that she's Sidney Prosser. And then Cooper is just like, has this deathly stillness to him in confusion, with his jaw hanging slightly. And he's just like, you just feel like he could kill her at any moment, just pounce. And then he says, just like in this confused calmness, he says, "I think we should fuck, and then we'll feel it, and then we won't be confused anymore." He just becomes just this confused, scary, horny man, and it ends with him screaming, as you said, with this very earthly, primal scream. Yeah. And then Sidney just bangs him over the head with the picture.
I love just the deflated sound. So from going from that sound to being hit and just being like, oh God, like it's just, it doesn't fit. You're like, his emotions are just going like that. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And then Irving comes in and threatens him with a gun, which doesn't faze Richie at all, it doesn't seem. And the scene ends with him in this really calm rage, and he calls the FBI and says, "I'm coming over to 64th Street and to beat your ass." It's just an incredible scene from Bradley Cooper. I've never seen anything like it.
That was amazing. Yeah, because he kind of quietly threatens them, basically. He's like, they don't want to go through this anymore, and he's like, we're basically trying to con the mob. If they find out, they're not going to fucking kill me. I'm the FBI. They're going to kill you.
Yeah.
And your kids. He gets really fucking personal. He's like, and your kid, and your wife. And then I'm going to beat your ass. It was a really intense. It was funny. It was a funny scene and intense as well, and quite scary. It's like, what the fuck? It was a really good scene.
Yeah, he basically goes from like excited, angry as hell, to horny as hell, confused as hell, horny as hell, and then angry as hell, in a calm way. It's just insane.
And then like in control, and then he's gone off to kick some ass.
Yeah, and it just lets all his craziness out on his boss.
I love that as well, because as we were explaining before, it does a jump cut scene. So he's already beaten up his boss, and he's talking to his superior officer about like what he did to his boss, and he's being all calm. But I love the scene where it flashback, and he just walks straight in. Just grabs the phone and just starts,
doesn't say anything.
Just grabs the phone and starts kicking the shit out of him. And then, like, his boss pulls out a pistol to try and defend himself, and he just pulls out his pistol. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was funny. It was just so extreme.
I love the moment, like, right at the start as well, where Christian Bale is, like, gluing his hair piece onto his head. It's just really... I just found that, as a balding man myself, I found it quite disturbing, almost like a horror movie at times. I was like, oh my God, what the hell is happening? I just felt very uncomfortable watching him glue his
glue a hair
piece on, this ridiculous comb over.
Glue the comb over to his forehead and stuff.
Have you got any other acting moments you liked?
Oh man, Christian Bale. I like. You can see that he likes Carmine, and I like that. Yeah. You can. It's like the more time he spends with him, after they go to that, with their wives and stuff, and they're chilling, and just he looks at him, and you can just tell he has the deepest respect for him. He actually really likes him, and just as that progresses, it's just the facial emotion, facial expressions of Christian Bale. Even when he's going through the steed, he's right next to him. This is killing him. It's really killing him to think about putting this guy away. He's a nice guy,
and he's really great when he tells the truth to him at the end.
But I just like that kind of physical acting. He doesn't have to say anything. There doesn't have to be any dialogue. You don't have to do anything too fancy with the camera. Just having Christian Bale's reaction with the fact that he is lying to this man, and you can tell You know, he
Yeah.
knows it's a lie. He knows
Totally
this is
right.
wrong, and you don't even have to. They do say more about it, and you know, Christian Bale is struggling with this, but you don't even need that. You know, you can tell. I think that's some great facial acting. But yeah, I love when they confront him. It gets it's quite heartbreaking. Yeah.
Certainly unravels, doesn't he, Bale? Well, they both do. Just Brenner, you know, in his anger and just disbelief. And there's just times in that scene where he's just, I don't think it's scripted, where he's just like hitting him at times. You know, I don't think that was in the script. I'm not sure. He just has to adapt to that, you know, in this in the moment.
Like, you know, he's just like, get out, and he's trying, and just bang, slaps him, and, you know. And then they're still trying to talk, and then just slap him again.
I like the moment when Amy Adams creates this English character for the first time.
That was fun.
You know, when Irving thought he'd lost her, but then comes back in and says, "Would you like to meet Lady Edith Greensley? I have royal banking connections in London. I would love to help you with your loan, but I have to be very selective."
Yeah, that was good.
You know, Adams is so seductive towards, like, Irving. And Irving's just like, "I fucking love you."
Yeah, that was good.
But again, there's another great scene. There's so many great scenes with Bradley Cooper.
He is a joy to watch on this, yeah.
One of my favourite scenes is when Richie is questioning Edith's motives, and he asks, "Are you playing him or are you playing me?" Yeah. And then you get this tracking shot up Amy Adams' body on the table and her legs spread, flapping, no bra, and says, "You're going to have to decide for yourself, kid. I just laid everything out on the table." Because she's sitting on a table.
Laid out.
Legs flapping. And Bradley Cooper goes right up to her, you know, real close, and then he steps back and he takes a big intake of breath and like just still holds one of her legs and just like there, you know, and he's just like, "Do I do it? No. Yes. No. Yep. No. Yep. Nope." And then just settles on nope, and you know he just can't do it. Yeah. And it's just great acting from Cooper there. And then there's a shot on Adams just looking a bit scared, like she's thinking up to herself, "Oh, can I really do this?"
I mean, even at the beginning, actually, you could tell this was where Richie sort of gently slides the money to to Carmine. Like, that's right at the beginning. You kind of get introduced to this whole thing. And I just quite like that. Of just, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you know,
what for? Yeah.
I like that. I thought that was good. Just like, wait, no, this is weird. And he's like, he's just, no, I'm not buying this. Who plays Rosalind again?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah. Well, anytime she's having fun is just awesome.
What, the aggressive cleaning to Live and Let Die in Marigolds?
Yeah, that was cool.
I must say it was quite hilarious. There's a lot of big hair in this film as well. We've got to mention, like Renner, Lawrence, all of them have got crazy hairdos.
Yeah, definitely.
There's one little moment which you would only maybe notice on the second watch. You know, I love the moment where Irving and Sidney hatch a new plan to get them out of this mess, and then during the scene where all three of them meet, you know, the fake attorney Victor Taleggio, Irving and Richie, you know, want to back out of the wire transfer, and Sidney says, you know, they should phone the Sheik, and Irving's like, "No, we shouldn't." But Richie agrees with Sidney, so he decides to phone the Sheik. And as he walks past to Sidney locks eyes with Irving, and in that moment you're like, yeah, they got him. You know, we've got leverage now against this guy. You know, I really like that bit. Definitely. And you only really catch that on the second watch. Did you notice that?
I'm not too sure if I did. I might have done. I'm not sure.
It's a great moment there. So who's your favourite performance? Silly question, possibly.
I think I'm going to go with fucking hell. Oh man, why am I so bad with names?
Has returned.
Sorry, I just can't. All names have just completely disappeared. I want to say Rocket Raccoon. You know what I mean? Bradley Cooper. There we go. Close enough. I'll go with Bradley Cooper.
Same. Mine is Bradley Cooper as well. I mean, he even dry humps his boss in the celebrations. You know, when they think they've beaten them all.
Yeah, that was brilliant, yeah.
And like every time he's on screen, I just can't help but just look at his hair for a bit, you know, because it's just very distracting.
It is,
the weird little curls. So, what score are you going for acting for American Hustle, Mr. Encyclopedia Man?
Oh man, I'm gonna give it like 8.9.
I'm going to venture into the nines with this one. I think it's pretty extraordinary from everyone, really.
I do think so.
So I'm going to go like 9.4.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think maybe actually I'll go a solid 9.
So-
I think I'm cheating it with just going with the 8. So I think I'll go
Okay.
a solid 9.
I have crossed out 3 scores.
Well, you're gonna
on this
cross
review.
out 3 more if you keep on jumping your lip. I'm gonna make the
Right,
next
let's add up
film
the
so
scores.
difficult for you. You think this is bad? I'll change my mind every 2 minutes.
Right, let's add up the scores then for American Hustle. American Hustle gets 51.3. Right, Baz, what is your film then?
My film is Arrival.
Why did you pick this one then?
My brother watched it a while back, a few years
Yeah.
ago, and he said he quite liked it. So had Amy Adams in it, and yeah, there we go.
Ticked all the boxes.
Sprung to mind, yeah, definitely. What was it? The first time I'd actually heard of this movie, it was a fan trailer who I think just took the piss because she was going to be in this. She was going to be in this film. It was going to have aliens. They had a little teaser trailer which I didn't see of the black obelisks. But what I saw was a fan trailer. So it was like she's a scientist or whatever, and it's in a field. And instead of an obelisk, the guy edited Superman coming down. So I was like, oh shit, it's another Superman movie. But yeah, that was
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So what happens in Arrival?
Yeah, so no Superman stuff in this film, unfortunately. But so yeah, this film is to do with Amy Adams is a language specialist. Linguist. Yeah, she's the same fucking thing, really, isn't it? That's that's the posh uni way of saying language specialist.
Yeah.
So anyway, she's a language specialist. Basically, aliens land in 12 locations around the world, and the United States government needs her help to, try and communicate with the alien life forms aboard the ship. They haven't told the public it yet, at the start of the film, but they've started trying to communicate with them, but they can't understand a word they say, obviously. So they have her come there as well as a scientist played by Jeremy Renner to work out what the alien language is and what the hell they want, really. If they can communicate with them, find out what they want. Yeah, and then it gets pretty weird. It gets pretty weird.
So directing then, this is directed by Denis Villeneuve, who did, Blade Runner 2049, Prisoners, and the new Dune film that will come out later this year, I think. I must say, like, the first time I watched this, I didn't like it. I really didn't like it. I think it was because it messed with my brain too much.
And you don't have a brain.
This just doesn't compute.
Yeah, you have a very small brain, so that must be
all right.
That must have been agony.
No, I mean, some of the scientific things just really bothered me at the end, to do with time and things.
There's a lot of timey-wiminess in this.
Yeah, but certainly the second time watching it, I liked it more. But there was still an element of which I didn't like, and that was the moral and ethical things about the decision she makes at the end. I still can't see why you can agree to that question. But yeah, we'll get to that
in script.
Yeah, but directing, I really like the cinematography in this film, especially like during the dark sequences. From Bradford Young, the DP, the cinematographer, he's not afraid to make these spaces look quite dark.
I would say,
even when it's fairly light outside, it just looks.
I would say the whole film is quite dark and sort of dreary. Like, it. Just think of like the most kind of dreary days, and that's just kind of this world that this inhabits. Like, they're all quite dreary and sort of dank, but very crisp picture. It does look really nice. It's just that the color seems to have been drained away. Like, it's quite dank, which I think is great towards the end because there's a contrast. Definitely when the color sort of ups from her getting into the ship into the alien space. It's just really white and just kind of it's really quite bright and stuff.
Yeah, certainly in all the flash forward scenes, there certainly seems to be a lot more
there
colour
is,
in it.
and there's a great contrast of differentiating between the time with her daughter, which she keeps getting flashes of, and the present, which is a lot more dreary.
Very cold, a lot of blues and greens and greys and things. I especially like the scene like when it's like very late evening, still light, where Louise Banks, played by Amy Adams, and Ian Donnelly, played by Jeremy Renner, they're talking, on the truck, and you can hardly see the details in their faces, but in that time of day, it just seems really realistic, and it just looks beautiful, Yeah,
it definitely does have, as you were saying, like realistic. It does have a real feel. It really does feel like this is kind of happening. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely feels like this would be how we would respond to this situation in real life. Definitely. So that was very convincing. I love the sequence where we enter the ship for the first time. It's really drawn out from when they arrive in these buggies. There's a lot of long shots of them just touching the outside of the ship on like the cherry picker thing.
I think that was especially Ian. He's like caressing the top of it. And, shots of him doing it with his hand and like his reaction of like, this is crazy. That definitely makes a more personal connection to it. These are not like robots who have just, they're not like, this is unprecedented. They're not going to be calm about this. They're not. And there is going to be wonder of like, oh man, this is awesome. I do also like the fact that when they go up the shaft, and then suddenly gravity is completely different. Like he throws the like a torch or something, and instead of like going, up and then back down, it like sticks to the wall. He's like,
gravity changes,
and then the soldiers just jump up and just walk up the wall. You're like, what? That's weird.
Yeah, there's some great long like push-ins on the white light at the end of the shaft thing in the ship, and there's even some subtle like dolly zooms in there on the characters when they start walking. It just racks up the sense of wonder and awe about this otherworldly place.
I think you really do get the I think it's especially it's the acting, but it's also the camera work. I do think I do agree with that. That this is a big deal, and this does feel like a big deal, and it does feel, as you said, like even I do think you're right. Dolly zoom on the characters of just like, this is crazy. It just gets you into that headspace. This is a really big deal.
It's very subtle, that bit. Yeah,
it's very, very subtle. But like I did notice that as well. It's just the anticipation, and it takes a long time.
And there's some great shots where they're upside down approaching the glass. That looked really great. And then it ends with like this really great combination of sound design and score when like the alien turns up at the glass. It's slightly scary actually. With the sound design and score mix, it's quite good. I really love how you have to wait like a good 20 minutes before you really get to see what the alien ship looks like. Because it's teased several times here and there on like news channels, but you never really get a really clear shot of what it looks like. But then there's this massive shot that reveals the ship that's in Montana, America, and it's just really stunning. You have this huge like sweeping camera shot of the ship, with the really low clouds in Montana, and you circle around the camp. It's just really, really quite stunning, that bit, I found.
Oh yeah, I would say a shot that kind of scared the hell out of me, I think.
All right.
Is you remember where she's talking to Ian and she's saying like, "Oh, do you get nightmares?" No, he says, "Are you starting to dream in their language?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Yeah, I suppose I've been having a few." And he's like one of the creatures. I was like, "What the hell was that about?" Yeah, was she dreaming? I was very confused. Was that
so was I. I didn't like that scene. Personally.
I didn't like that scene. It was strange.
Well, just as a visual, you didn't like it?
No, it was just kind of weird, but it shocked me. I'm just saying, it's like they're talking about, have they had funny dreams? And, it's peculiar.
So score then for directing for me, it's really well done. I think Denis Villeneuve is just really great at making things look cinematic. because this is a very realistic film. But he manages to make the ships look huge. You know, the scale is everything. I think Denis Villeneuve is a director that really understands cinema. You know, certainly in his other work, and I think with this one, it's no different.
I also like the whole scene when where they're really trying to understand more of the language. They think they've got something, and it's intercut with a ticking time bomb. A bunch of the soldiers, like, you know, sneakily getting out weapons and starting fire. You know, starting basically a rebellion to try and destroy this bloody ship. Them getting closer and closer to learning more and more of the language. You know, she starts spelling it out on the glass, and they start giving her all these damn symbols. They give her the revelation of the very big symbol, and it's like, you know, 3, 2, 1, you know, and explosion, and they push. They basically telekinetically push them away.
Force push them out.
Force push them away. Yeah, that whole scene I think just was just kind of amazing. It's like, you know, they don't have a lot of time to get this done. Yeah, it's just all this stuff going on. You're like,
it's quite funny because obviously on a rewatch, you know, going in that the aliens know that there's a bomb in there. You know?
Yeah, because they
don't do the circle things. They're just like, no, tapping on the glass. There's a bomb behind you. It's like this weird pantomime bit, you know. And then you know they spray the ink everywhere. Like, yeah, it's a bomb. Boom. Because they, you know, in the screenplay, you know, at the end that these aliens, Abbott and Costello, they call them, that they can see all of time all at once.
Yeah. Well, they're basically, because the confusion in the script is they managed to decipher that they want to give them something, and they're like, they can only translate it as weapon. We want to give you weapon. And everybody's freaking out. What the hell does that mean?
They haven't distinguished between tool and weapon and gift, you know?
Yeah.
Enough.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. So everybody's freaking out that they want to give them something dangerous, and it's going to result in a war like the Chinese want to just attack these things.
Yeah. So directing score for me, I'm going to go like 8.6, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the directing's pretty damn solid. That sounds pretty good, actually.
What are you going to go with?
I'll go 8.9.
Denis Villeneuve is definitely becoming one of these must-watch their film directors, you know, like a Christopher Nolan or a Quentin Tarantino. He's becoming one of these directors where you're like, yeah, I have to watch this film. I don't really care what it's about. I have to watch it.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to June.
You've also got some just like really, you know, just intense shots on the faces and mid shots and even just like how everything's arranged, you know, like the backgrounds and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just this ominous feeling throughout the film, you know. Oh, I was also just going to say one last thing. I just need to say this.
Yep.
You know, all the ships teleport out at the end?
Yeah.
You know, they peace out and I have never seen anything do that before. You know, you always see like a portal or a puff of smoke. They literally just,
dissolve.
It's like they dissolve. It's like they turn into clouds or something. It was just, it was very weird. But anyway, carry on, sorry.
Because they're like pebbles, aren't they? They're kind of like dissolve into the ocean.
Yes.
Into the sea.
The ocean
to
of
be
time.
very poetic, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, screenplay then. I actually really love the opening line of this film. The very first words this film speaks from Amy Adams' character, Dr. Louise Banks. In voiceover, she says, "I used to think this was the beginning of our story." I thought that was quite a clever way to open this film.
Yeah, especially with the time-altering shenanigans that happen. Yeah.
I really like when they first discover like the circle images that the aliens communicate with, and like the film makes it very clear where the scientists and the military stand with the kangaroo story that Dr. Banks explains to Weber. You know, do you remember that bit?
Yeah.
That in something like the 17th century, when the colonialists met the Aborigines in Australia for the first time, and they saw these animals run by, and the colonialists asked, like, what is that? And the Aborigines say kangaroo, which they assume is what they think, you know, that animal is called from the Aborigines. But no, it actually just means, I don't understand. Yeah, meaning that Banks is telling Weber that this is going to take a long time. This is going to take a long time to figure out the language between each other.
But also he's very concerned because she has a she wants to teach them English.
Yeah.
You know. And he's very much like, no. You know, he's suspicious.
Weber reminds Banks that the Aborigines were nearly wiped out, you know, meaning that they could kill us, you know, if we don't get this thing sorted quickly.
And he, you know, don't want to teach them too much. You could teach them something that could end us or whatever. Yeah. But I do like how she does that story. It's like, okay, I'm off your back. It's not,
you know,
true.
you have this scene fairly early on in the film, and it's just a great way to establish where the scientists and the military guys stand in this situation right from the off.
Yeah.
I really like that. One of the subplots is really interesting, which ends up being kind of the core of the film, which kind of caught me off guard, I think, the first time I watched it. You know, it is really interestingly done, where you see what you think are flashbacks to her daughter called Hannah in the end. You know, the sound design is really interesting, where the sound effects like overlap into the present day, and at times there's no sound at all. So it doesn't feel like a normal flashback as if you're watching it for the first time. And there's one around the hour mark where it feels very different. Hannah, the daughter, shows Louise a drawing of two people, and she says, oh, you know, the show is called Mummy and Daddy Talk to Animals, which suggests, you know, Donnelly is the father. And when the flashbacks end, Donnelly checks if Louise is okay, and Louise just says, I'm not sure it's something I can explain, which suggests further that these are just not necessarily flashbacks. And the why and the how are yet to be answered, and they might not ever be answered.
Yeah, no, I think that was done effectively. Especially it comes in from the start, and she is quite lonely. I think it's the association there. She's got nobody in her house. She comes home, the house is empty, it's dark, and you just kind of get the sense, and you know, it's got memories of her daughter and all this stuff growing up. So you think throughout, oh, maybe she had somebody and she had a daughter and all this. So it's a kind of misdirect, the way it sets up. So you kind of buy, maybe these are just memories of a previous time. The longer the film goes on, it does seem that, no, these aren't really memories. They're kind of touching on things that she's going through right now, or she's going to go through.
The dream sequence is interesting, where Donnelly, you know, is saying that if you immerse yourself into this other language, you can rewrite your brain. And it suggests like Dr. Banks has immersed herself so much that she can see that she sees aliens in her sleep, as you said, that this could cause the flashbacks. This could cause the flash forwards, rather. I just don't see in my brain. I don't see how that is possible for someone to like learn a completely, you know, alien language. So you can see all of time. You know, it just doesn't. I guess it's the same thing of like in a musical, you just accept that they sing, you know, and in a superhero film, you know, when you see Superman, you just accept that Superman flies. And in this, you know, I think you just have to, in my eyes, in this film, because I think there are several different readings you can have with this film and for it still to work, because it clearly says that the aliens give her a gift. You know, they give her the gift of that she can see all of her life, you know, and that she can, which I'll explain later, that she can, you know, communicate with her future and she can communicate with her past and all that. But I think it's just, you just have to accept that and roll with it in this film. That's why this dream sequence is just really frustrating, and I really wish they cut it out, because I just feel like I don't want a logical explanation in this, you know? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't have to do a logical thing. I kind of get you. So the theory that he talks about, I'm sorry, I'm getting more off of the film and more onto documentaries I've watched and stuff like that.
No, it's good.
But there was this theory by a linguist, and there is some evidence to this. There is actually quite a lot of evidence to this, that language actually changes the way that societies might perceive the world. So, for example, different cultures have a different amount of colors. They'll say, say there might be a shade of green, and we just call it green, but they have a particular word for it. Well, studies have actually shown, you have a culture that doesn't have different words for different colors, and these colors kind of just blend together. They don't really see a difference. Whereas if you have a particular color for a different shade, well, those people, they can see it. There's other things as well. Like there was something like a tribe that didn't have left and right, but they spoke about north and south, and they knew instinctively where the hell north and south was, because that's where they talk about their directions and stuff. So there's stuff like that where language does seem to influence the way that societies like see the world. So it's just going further with that.
Yeah.
Okay, if you learn this language, then you'll see the universe for how it really is, which is a loop.
Yeah,
of
but this
time.
film is suggesting you can see your future. If you learn a language, you can see your future, which doesn't
Maybe it's just saying like
work for me. I'm just like, what? It's just because this film is so realistic. It's going for this very realistic vibe, and yet you add these very ambiguous concepts into a very realistic film. It's a bit jarring for me.
Yeah. Okay, I get you. Not exactly like, leisurely watching or whatever. Yeah, it is, I suppose. I don't know. I kind of bought it. I bought it.
I did.
I thought it was all right.
But I mean, what I'm saying is I like that idea, but I don't think you don't necessarily need a rationale for it.
Yeah, you don't need to over-explain it, I suppose. Just it's a magical language from beyond the stars that, changes your brain,
But yeah, on a rewatch, because Boaz, you've only seen this film once, I do implore you to watch this film again because it's really interesting.
Maybe I have. For the past.
But there's one really, really fascinating thing I noticed that I think Louise can literally communicate with her present and her future at the same time, is when her daughter, in one of the flash forwards, her daughter asks about what happens when two sides end up happy. Can two sides end up happy? And Louise just says, "Oh, ask your father." And obviously at this point we don't know who the father is. Then we go back to the present, and there's a scene about what they should do next about the China situation, because China have decided they're going to end communication and act violently or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, we should do a trade." And Donnelly says, "Oh, it's a non-zero sum game." And then in the very next shot, in the flash forward with her daughter, Louise says the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a non-zero sum game. It's literally directly juxtaposed.
Yeah.
So it definitely suggests that she can communicate with her future.
And especially this comes, with the big twist of how she's like going to save the aliens and like save the planet and everything from the Chinese general and stuff, where she is directly trying to remember stuff that hasn't happened yet. Like meeting the general and him explaining how she solved the situation back in the past. It's so trippy,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you phoned me. Do you not remember? It's like, no. And it's like, well, here's my number. It's like, oh shit, okay, now I remember. And she's still trying to remember stuff as she's on the phone. She's like, what did I say? What did I say to him? Yeah. And is remembering it's so weird.
I mean, I remember watching
twist.
it for the first time, and that scene really irked me. I was just like, "What the hell is going on? I'm so confused."
It kind of makes your brain hurt a bit because she's trying to pull out memories from the future to help in the present. It's a pretty crazy twist. It's a pretty crazy.
It's like kind of what Chris Nolan does a bit. He expects the audience to be as intelligent as he is, to understand his movies. The same a little bit here with Denis Villeneuve.
If you're not a fan of timey-wimey films, like through the first half, you would be excused of not even thinking this is about time. This is about an alien, contact. You wouldn't think it's about time travel. Then it gets really timey-wimey.
That's what this film is. It's why it's so fascinating, this film, because it certainly pretends to be this particular film of like alien communication. It's all about communication and alien invasion possibly, and what's going to happen, and then it just unravels.
Yeah, is it a Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or is it Independence Day? But then it's like no, it's like
and then it unravels into being this very personal story about these two characters in the end. It's really well done of how it unravels itself, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's another example where Adams' character, Louise Banks, can communicate with her future when she says at the end, like, "I forget how good it felt to be held by you," is another example that she can communicate with her future when she hugs Donnelly at the end.
Because she's never actually held him before. It's
Yeah.
so, how is their relationship going to go? This must confuse the hell out of him. Well, I suppose he leaves her at some point, but oh man.
But then this film leads to one of the biggest issue I have with this film is a moral issue, where she says, in a flash forward, she says, well, believe it or not, I know something that's going to happen. I can't explain how I know, I just do. And when I told your daddy, he got really mad and he said I made the wrong choice. She's referring to the fact that Hannah is her daughter and will die of a very rare disease. And the fact that we learn she can communicate with her future and she can have willing choices in this story. And, you know, Louise has a choice. And at the end of the film, Donnelly asks her in the near future, do you want to make a baby? And she says yes. And that's the moral issue I have with the film.
So you do not agree with her at all? You're like,
I just find it very difficult maybe it's because I'm not a parent, I don't have children, but I just find it very difficult for me that knowing that your child will die of a horrible disease at the age of 17, I think they say, to decide, yes, I will have this child. I just really? Would you do that to your child?
Well,
knowing they are going to die at 17? I'm not sure I can do that.
Okay, I'll ask you this more horrible thing.
Yeah.
Isn't that the case for literally every birth? Your child is going to die at some point.
Yeah, I know,
whether it's at 1 or 70, we're not immortal.
No,
it's
it's obviously a very hypothetical situation.
Yeah, no, I know.
But she knows she's going to die. No one knows their child is going to die.
No, we're all going to die, man.
Whenever, you know. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Yeah, good, like peacefully in your sleep or in agonizing pain at a very young age from a horrible disease.
But she knows for a fact in her life her daughter will die at 17.
I suppose it's, you know, because she gets these quite pleasant memories of playing with her daughter, playing with her toys, telling her.
That's the thing, these are not memories.
No, these are not memories. These haven't happened yet. Yeah. But, what was it? Telling her bedtime stories, all this other stuff, teaching her. I think she wants that. You know, these are good, quote unquote, memories. So it's like, even though it has this horrible end, I think she's aware that she's going to have really good times with her daughter. When that happens. And I think from her point of view, it's worth it. The marriage to Ian, and it's gonna go to crap, but it's gonna be a good marriage until that. Her time with her daughter is gonna be amazing until she dies. She's willing to accept that.
Yeah, I mean, would you say yes to this question then?
Would I say yes
to having a baby, knowing she'll die at 17?
I would probably say no.
In
my personal opinion, I would say no. Yeah. But again, I'm not a. Who knows, man? I suppose if you have this as an interview with other people, I kind of agree with you. I think she kind of made the wrong choice. But
But then it would be like a really shitty film. It's like, oh, okay.
It would be, yeah. But I think that's the message it's trying to convey. It's just like, even if you knew, getting into a relationship was going to end poorly, or having a child was going to end poorly, or your life was going to end poorly, it's mainly about the experience. She's remembering the good things about her daughter. Again, remembering, quote unquote. This is weird. It's a weird film, and she's still deciding to go through that journey.
So I guess she doesn't know. Well, I don't. That's the thing in this film. She knows her whole life, so maybe she knows in the future she's going to have another child, and
maybe. But I think maybe it's just the case of a memory isn't really as good as the real thing. And so, she's having these faux memories of time with her daughter. I think she actually wants this thing. Yeah, it's going to end poorly, but it's a very difficult decision. And then, I suppose you could go like ultra philosophical about, is this to do with fate? Fate versus free will. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy film. Also, the alien plot is kind of crazy because it's offhand of, when they finally explain what the weapon, quote unquote, is, it's just the language, and it will help them see the future. And they're like, we're going to need your help in 3,000 years. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Sequel.
Yeah. What's going to happen in 3,000 years? I'm super curious.
So you got a favourite line then?
Anything the alien said.
Well, yeah, the sound design is amazing.
The sound design is amazing.
But mine is, I mean, I'm a big softie at heart, quite frankly. My favourite is pretty much near the end, when Donnelly is basically confessing his love for Louise. And he says, I've had my head tilted up to the stars for as long as I can remember. You know what surprised me the most? It wasn't meeting them, it was meeting you. It's just such a lovely line from Reva at the end.
If there's an alien invasion, I'm using that line. I'm using that line in a go.
Yeah. And if you notice, there's a lot of tilt downs with the camera work in this film. There's a lot of tilts going up and down in these long shots, which I find like really poetic in this film. Right, score-wise, I think the fact that I have such a profound reaction to the moral question at the end, I think is a really good thing. And the fact that I don't like the dream sequence, which is just I wish they didn't have that in there. But there's enough in this script that you can have multiple readings of what that scene is trying to go with. So I'm going to go like a 9.2, I think. I think it's just such a clever script. How you assume these memories, as you keep saying, are flashbacks, but no, in fact, all those scenes at the beginning were flash forwards, and all the rest were flash forwards. It's just really, really clever.
It is, yeah.
So what are you going to go with, Boaz?
Yeah, I'll go a 9.3. Although, actually, my one gripe with the film, the script, is I wish she said something a little more profound to the general, rather than his wife's dying words, because I'm not sure if that would change my mind or just scare the shit out of me if somebody randomly called me with what my wife said when she died. It's like, it's pretty horrifying.
Wait, remind me, what bit is that again?
So, she has to phone the general, yeah? And she's trying to dig up information on what to say to him.
Oh,
and
right.
She has the memory of the party, and he's like, do you remember what you said to me? You said what my... the last words that my wife said when she died, and he repeats in Mandarin.
Oh, right.
And it's one of those things, it's like, yeah, that is kind of sweet. I don't know, I just wish that was done a little better, because it's like that it's such a good twist, and it's so good thematically with like loss and stuff like that, having a relationship and the loss. But it's also like, how would you react if somebody just said the words that your wife said when she died, over the phone? It scared the hell out of me. She doesn't even explain who she is. Still a great scene. I'm just not sure about the logic of it, but
Okay. Right, acting then. There are some elements of humour in this film which I quite liked. Very, very few, but where Dr. Banks and Donnelly enter the ship for the first time, and as we said, the gravity is very different in the ship. It changes as they go up the shaft. Banks is really nervous, and Forrest Whitaker, who plays Colonel Weber, says to her, "You can do this." And she just gets even more nervous, and she's like, and then Weber is just like, screw it, and just grabs her and takes her up anyway. And then Donnelly tries to do it himself, because he's like the last one on the cherry picker thing. And then he just lands on his face, which is quite funny.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I love the moment when Weber is talking to Banks near like halfway through the film, and says the Chinese are mobilizing their troops, and he says, we need to ask the big question. And then you can tell, and then he walks off, and you can tell Adams in her subtle performance that she's just like, it's too soon. I just like that really subtle performance there. She doesn't need to say anything there to know that we're rushing this.
We're rushing it, yeah.
Because they think at this point the heptapods are saying off a weapon. I mean, Michael Stuhlbarg as the CIA agent is pretty hissable, I guess. Well, just not hissable, just a bit irritating,
Yeah.
He's really good. I mean, I like the last montage sequence where Jeremy Renner and Amy Adams, they're really amazing. You feel this very like tender love for each other in a very subtle way in all the time periods, especially in the present when they hug, and the music is just really amazing as well by Johan Johansson. who sadly passed away a few years ago. Just really great work with the score. And mixing it with the sound design, as I said before. So yeah, my favourite performance is Amy Adams for sure.
Yeah, I think that's kind of beyond question.
Obviously, in American Hustle, is really showy.
Yes,
there's literally nothing subtle in the acting in that film at all. But this is all about the subtlety, I would say. Is yours Amy Adams as well?
Yeah, mine's Amy Adams.
Yeah.
And I agree, it's just, the subtlety speaks volumes, if that kind of makes sense. It's
definitely.
It doesn't have to be just...
For a science fiction film, it's weird. It's not, like, massively showy with, like, special effects or anything like that, even though it still feels, like, ridiculously cinematic.
Yeah.
Especially the scenes in the alien ship and seeing it, it just feels huge without being showy, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go acting like 8.2, 8.3. How about you, sir?
Okay, I'm going to go 8.
All right, let's add up the scores then for Arrival. I think this is going to be a very tight one. Yep, Arrival wins this one with 52.3. With American Hustle with 51.3.
Whoa, that's
so just
close.
A single point there. Arrival wins. Damn it! I mean, I do love both films, so I don't really mind who wins.
I could see this coming.
Next week, as No Man Land hits cinemas, I know you're thinking, well, why are you talking about No Man Land for next week? Because it's already out on Disney Plus. Well, it's actually out in cinemas next week, so you can actually see it on the big screen, not your tiny television.
Got to remain topical.
And obviously, this film stars the 3-time Oscar winner now, Frances McDormand.
I could win 4.
Yeah, so we're going to focus our attentions on Frances McDormand. All right. Thanks, Boaz. You've been rather good, as always. Bye.
Bye.
That's it for this week's pod. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to find out more about the podcast or suggest future topics for us to discuss related to upcoming releases, let us know on Instagram at Film vs. Film Podcast and on Twitter at FVF_podcast. Remember, please subscribe. Pod signing off.